against this budget, there were approximately 118.3 billion pending bills. You can imagine that the pending bills out of this is 118 billion, which is actually 3 times more than the budget itself. So the budget is 43 billion, but there is already pending bills of 118.32 billion. You can start to see how the scheme of fraud is happening at the city county of Nairobi. To settle this debt of 118 billion, the Nairobi county government has to shut down for 3 financial years, collecting taxes from Kenyans without service delivery, for it to cover the debt that it has acquired during this period. In simple terms, the Nairobi county government is insolvent because the looting has been legendary. If indeed the governor and the MCAs who are in charge of oversight prudently spent approximately 160 billion that they have spent since Sakaja came to office, Nairobians would have received the best facilities and services. Because 116 billion, 160.1 billion is a lot of money. Based on these brief findings, we conclude that more than 3/4, which is 120 billion, have been defrauded, and hence the need for a fraud examination and a fraud audit. So we have already commissioned the audit, and we are working with the Office of the Auditor General. That is what we are saying, that the fraud audit is what we require to sue for recovery of the billions Sakaja's administration has looted since September 2022. We are told that he has shared a substantial amount of this money with the ODM and the UDA leadership, which is why they have moved speedily to save him from the impeachment. We shall work with the Office of the Auditor General in doing this fraud audit, and we have already opened good offices at the Office of the Auditor General to facilitate the fraud examination. We call upon Nairobians in all the 85 wards to take their Nairobi back from the abductors, the looters, and the lunatics, because these people are not sane. How shall they do that? In all the 85 wards, identify alternative, progressive, and principled women and men, especially young leaders, and that's why Wakili Kidi is here to represent the Interparties Forum, so that we can identify principled and clean young men and women, and even older ones who are principled and ethical, to elect them as MCAs in 2027. And in the impeding, once we dissolve the government, there's going to be a fresh election, probably next year, and therefore there will be need for a fresh election to replace the Sakaja looting machine. And these individuals that we are going to identify in the 85 wards, we are calling upon them to support the dissolution signature collection exercise so that we can end this menace that has come to be associated with the Sakaja looting machine. Secondly, we are requesting Nairobians to form citizens accountability and service delivery committees in all the 85 wards, so that they can start to convene assemblies at the ward level and residential areas, just like we saw in Makueni under the leadership of Professor Kivuta Kibwana, because these assemblies and the committees at the ward level in Nairobi are the ones that will become the engine of the recovery and the revival of Nairobi. Thirdly, we are calling on all Nairobians to register as voters, especially those Nairobians who travel to vote up country, yet they do not live or work in those up-country polling stations where they vote. They work and live in Nairobi, but they vote elsewhere. We are saying register and vote in Nairobi. Especially young people, we are calling upon the Gen Zs and all the young people to register en masse, because this is going to be the power that we will use to recover and redeem Nairobi from the wanton looting. We also call on Kenyans to reject all the efforts by President Ruto and the Honorable Raila to amend our constitution before the 2027 general election. You've already heard that the broad-based government, or the blood-based government, as we actually correctly should refer to it, is planning to cause amendments to our constitution. And we are calling on all Kenyans to say no to amendments to our constitution before the 2027 general election. We call for the faithful implementation of the constitution, tekeleza katiba. And we propose that a national constitutional conference be held after the general election, where a review and audit of the implementation of the constitution can be conducted by we the people, not the politicians, but we the people. Finally, we call upon all Kenyans who value our democracy, our development, and our devolution to reject UDA and ODM and everyone who is in the blood-based government in the 2027 general election across Nairobi and nationally, because these are the enemies of our people and the enemies of Nairobi, as we have just witnessed. And Wakili, allow me to say one thing, that since last year, when the Gen Zs were slaughtered, murdered, and assassinated in large numbers, and then they formed the basis of this merger and the handshake and the blood-based government, we have seen that actually ODM has now become the cover for UDA to kill, murder, and loot with impunity. And we want Kenyans to take these two political parties and their leadership to account for the heinous crimes that they have committed against the people of Kenya. Thank you very much. We beg to pause there, and then Wakili will help us so that we can be able to field questions. Thank you very much, Asante. I think you raise a very important question. First of all, there is no shilling that belongs to the people of Kenya that can be stolen, and we don't recover it. And second, let me clarify that we are not asking for a commission. We have already commissioned a fraud audit. We are paying for it ourselves. As the people of Kenya, as Kenya Bora, we have already paid. The fraud examiners are already at work. So we are not asking government or somebody to form a commission, because they will not. So as citizens, we've raised money amongst ourselves, and we have paid fraud examiners so that we can be able to get the exact accounts where the money was deposited, who was paid for work that was not done, because this 118 billion is part of the fraud that is going on at the county government of Nairobi. So let me explain. Once we get the Sakaja government with all his MCAs out through the signature collection, we will be having the fraud examination report ready. So we are going to recover every single shilling of this money, because money cannot just disappear. That's the beauty about how systems work. So we are going to recover all the money for the people of Nairobi, and that is the money that is going to be used for purposes of reviving and renewing Nairobi. Let me answer the last question. You are asking that how are we going to do this differently? We are going to do it differently because we are different. Those of us who fought for devolution and the Constitution are the only ones who knew what we wanted to do with the devolution. Your example is Professor Kivuta Kibwana. Okay? We are the ones who knew what we wanted to do with devolution. But because billionaires came and bribed Nairobians and bribed people, and then people gave them the seats, we have seen the looting that has gone on. The reason we are talking about this statement is because we know exactly how the looting is being done. And we are going to stop it because we have the responsibility. And finally, that's why we are forming the 85 People's Service Delivery and Accountability Committees. There is no human being who's an angel. That is why Kibwana had to form the village committees, the ward committees, the constituency committees, so that these are the people who hold the MCAs accountable and the governor. If you operate like in Nairobi, where citizens don't have any structures of holding the county government accountable, that's where the looting happens. Once we form the 85 service delivery and accountability wards, committees, that is how the people of Nairobi will be vetting every project that has been budgeted and whether it has been done.